Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the County Commissioners meeting. First order of business is adoption of the agenda or adjustments.
I'm going to move to approve the agenda as presented with the addition in airport item C of a discussion regarding a grant application for the airport of the FAA Airport Terminal Program.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous. Public comment. We set aside some time for public comment. Anyone here wishing to make any comments? Anyone at home? No? Okay, we'll move on. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes of the September 19th.
I'm going to move to approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2023 Commissioners' Special Meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I'm going to move to approve the minutes of the September 27th, 2023 public hearing in the Commissioners' Special Meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So unanimous. Next, we have an employee recognition.
Can we just pass, we just had a situation in jail, she'll be right down, we'll just skip that and get it when she gets here.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So we'll, if you could just wave to us and we'll stick it in when we,
Okay.
okay, on to ARPA.
I'm going to move to accept and file the mission broadband report as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So unanimous. UT,
I'm going to move to accept and file the UT report as presented.
Seconded.
moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I don't have a copy of it, so we didn't get a copy of it.
Oh, no, that's right, I'm sorry. Village never got back to me.
Well, if you didn't send it in, I thought it was email, but
No, I think that he never got back to us, I'm sorry, I should have taken that off.
okay,
I'm
so,
going to withdraw my motion.
okay, so that is withdrawn. Oh, you know what I'm thinking of is the next item.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, review and approval of the annual renewal of the liquor license for Airline Snack Bar in Township 22. And the UT supervisor recommends approval.
I'm going to move to approve the liquor license for the airline snack bar in Township 22.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So unanimous. Airport.
I'm going to move to accept and file the airport report as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Leroy, anything to add?
Just I wanted to add, we did have a fire alarm go off here on the 28th at about 1 a.m. Trenton came by, looked it all over, reset it. Everything was okay. Just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay.
We had a congressional senator.
Yeah. So, moved and seconded. Any further discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Request approval of the contract with Highlight Aircraft Services, or excuse me, Airfield Services LLC in the amount of $188,875 for airfield pavement markings, pavement remarking and crack seal their design. Wow, I'm having trouble here. Leroy?
No, this is just, the grant's been approved. This is just the end, you know, the final contract with the contract. The only little side note we could throw in here is John at Jacobs did kind of ask if we could put off the airfield painting until spring. I've reached out to our FAA inspector to get his input on that, have not heard back yet. We're getting to a point that it's got to be like 50 degrees and rising in temperature to put it down. It's got to be dry. So because these grants came in a little on the late side, it's given us a late start. So quite frankly, I would rather see it done in the spring anyway. You know, it's kind of silly to put brand new paint down than start plowing over it.
We could approve
We
that.
can, yeah, we can approve the contract and, yeah,
I'm gonna move the contract with Highlight Airfield Services LLC in the amount of $188,875 for airfield pavement remarking and crack sealing, and for the chair to sign.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further
Well, better not up. They're just about there.
Wow.
or Michael is okay? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. The next item is the airport grant.
Yeah,
we-
I'll give you a little briefing. This is another one of those COVID grants, I believe. It's airports apply for it. You don't necessarily get it. I think there's another couple of years left to apply. You know, you apply every year, you may get it, may not. So the application has to be in by the 16th of this month. So that's why we kind of needed to get it, you know, on the docket so we could get the okay to send the application. It doesn't cost us anything. If we get a grant, we got to pay 5% of it, just like all the other, you know, AIP grants. But the terminal building, the old section of the building could use some, or really needs some work. And that's kind of what this grant is all about, is to deal with terminal buildings and control towers. So it wouldn't come out of our AIP funds or anything to repair the building. It needs some windows replaced, and quite frankly, the rain blows in when it's blowing in the right out of the south off the water. So it's just, you know, it's another one of those ways to try to get a little funding without, you know, having to pull it out of our budget to change, you know, do the windows and so on.
I'm gonna move to permit the airport to make a grant application for the FAA Airport Terminal Program.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous. Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you.
EMA, we have the monthly report.
I'm gonna move to accept and file the EMA report as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous. RCC.
I'm gonna move to accept and file the RCC report as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Anything to add? But all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Maintenance,
I'm
we
gonna
have
move to accept and file the maintenance report as presented.
Seconded.
moved and seconded. Any anything to comment on or?
No, not unless you have any questions.
No? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
unanimous.
In your report, Dennis, item number 5.
Yeah.
Did you know something have you heard something? You thought,
Refresh my memory.
well, you thought the state would be closing on that.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Because there's been absolutely nothing.
I've heard, that's why I mentioned, because I've heard nothing. Conspicuous silence.
Gentlemen, this may warrant a discussion if we can get Andy to come up. Andy's EOC, 2-year grant program, is, the clock started, I think, on that project. And within 2 years, he's got to occupy that building. And we've been holding off looking at any additional properties because of the possibility that we could get property adjacent to the new courthouse and build that on that property. And I'm really concerned that apparently there hasn't even been negotiations started yet on the purchase price. And here we are already in October, already lost June, July, August, we've already lost 4 months of that 24-month clock. And so I'd like to get I'd like to get Andy to come up and talk about that, because at a minimum, I think maybe we could start with the process of hiring an architect, designing the structure and then where it's gonna be placed. And get some of that work started, because
So you're on a future agenda.
a future agenda, right?
Yeah. Okay. Great, Michael, you.
Hit the ground running.
We gotta do something here, because, anyways, that's,
But item 5, you said that you're expecting to hear that the state has closed on, so.
Yeah, because they said 90 days. And that was 45 days ago, so.
and I was contacted by the landowner, what not long to know if I knew anything about any progress on that. He hasn't even been contacted. As far as his, weeks ago, they said they'd be sending him a purchase and sales agreement. But I don't know how you do a P&S agreement until you negotiated
I
a
don't
purchase
either.
price, so anyways,
And the mention was more or less to say we haven't forgot about it and maybe someone might know what's going on, but I do.
Okay, so that's a future agenda. item. Next up is review and approve L&M Lusomom agreement for jail plumbing.
Yes, and you have copies of that. And we have, Mr. Hurley's on by Zoom if you have any questions. It's a suggestion, I agree with it, is to consider E.L. Shea as the
Yeah.
general, which we talked about that a little bit. And he already has Dick Rollins, engineer, looking into it. So a little bit, we're expecting some information back from him pretty soon about
And there's a suggestion here that we engage Lusomom on an hourly basis with a not to exceed number
Right.
on page 4.
so I'm gonna move to approve the Lewis and Mon architectural engineering services proposal for the Hancock County Jail plumbing upgrades project for the sum not to exceed $34,875 for the sums to be paid from our ARPA.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I also like to add maybe the chairman signs.
Oh, it's her. Is this the contract?
I haven't reviewed.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, he
And I'm
has,
gonna add,
he has it.
yeah, I see.
Oh,
that.
yes.
No,
I'm
you,
reading that copy,
Yeah,
so-
I did.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm gonna add my motion at the end and for the chair to sign.
Is that all right with you?
Yes, okay.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Sheriff step,
I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
will,
Oh, you
I have it. in my-
will get through this item. Sheriff step update.
Yes, as you can see, they're staging equipment today. I think they're actually gonna begin actual construction tomorrow. We've carved out a space only along the fence. They feel they can work within that space. There's a couple of pieces of the project that are gonna require a little room when they do their trenching and so forth. And when, of course, when they pour concrete, they'll be moving trucks in and we'll probably have to close it down to a one-way at that time. But we expect to go as smoothly as we can manage it.
Have you been working with the courts on the noise issue?
Noise generated yet.
Yes, they're aware of what's happening, but yeah,
Do you know what machinery they're gonna use? What are they gonna use to bust up the
excavator.
excavator? Holy smokes.
And how much of it, so the hammering, I don't think they expect to do too much. So it'll be more like crashing and clanging than the,
Oh,
but
you think so?
I
You
do.
don't think it'll be that?
I don't think it'll be too.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on.
And if we expect
Yeah.
interruptions and they're aware, then.
Dennis?
Yes,
This is Charlie at Lewis and Malm. Good morning, commissioners. I just received from, Mike Becker over at EL Shea, their schedule, and I don't know, I imagine he copied it to you, but if he didn't, I'll send it to you.
great.
For Charles, the plumbing
The
or
one.
No, for the stairs. They
Oh,
just
okay.
submitted the progress, the schedule for how they're gonna do the stairs. And in short, wrapping up, just before Thanksgiving with the concrete pour, the railings have to be done after everything is in place. And then, but it shows them finishing up in early December.
It's a good time.
Yeah,
I don't see anything into the new year. Yeah.
yeah, that was great.
Plumbing, they'll still be doing t-shirts, so.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what.
Okay.
A lot of work going on in October.
Outstanding.
Okay,
Thank you.
next item, I'd like to sneak in while everybody's here. I'm gonna interrupt you before the next item, is that all right?
Please.
Okay, great. So we have an employee recognition. I didn't want to keep everybody. Nancy Pelletier for 15 years of service. Thank you, and maybe a motion be in order.
I'm going to move. Nancy Pelletier for 15 years as a corrections officer, and thank her for her service.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous. Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Congratulations, Nancy. Thank you.
Well, we should have a picture.
Oh, Nancy.
Nancy, you can't get away that quick.
I know this is the joy. Got Mike in there too.
Don't get me in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Yes, congratulations. Great, great, wonderful.
Okay, next up is purchase of a new truck.
Yes. My question is more, what sort of process do you see prior to bringing a recommendation to you? I know
Did you tell us here recently that the one you have won't pass inspection?
we took it down to, Dave took it down to Saunders 2 weeks ago. And they put a sticker on it and told him, don't bring it back.
So I won't pass inspection again.
So we got a year.
I don't know if the state wants to hear that.
I don't either, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I think I may have mentioned this during budget preparation, something, I'm not sure if it's here. Well, how many miles on the civil process deputy's vehicle?
Last meeting, it was just over 73,000, but realistically, we have 3 pickups that are kind of in that mileage range, so
More than that or less?
one of them has more. One of the lieutenants has low 90s. Mine is 78. Paul's was 73 last time I saw the mileage on
What
it.
year is lieutenant's?
Same year as mine, 2019.
19? Because mileage is not the issue, age is the issue. I mean, you don't put any miles on your pickup.
No,
They sit there and deteriorate, just
that's right.
done. I'm wondering,
The only difference I was gonna say, Commissioner, is mine and the lieutenants are crew cabs, and the other one, the civil deputy, is an extended cab.
but at some point in the near future, all of those are gonna have to be replaced.
Next year,
correct?
probably. Late, about a year from now.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we permit the sheriff to go out to bid for a new vehicle for his lieutenant. And once, if we can make that purchase, then transfer the ownership of lieutenant vehicle to maintenance department. and then buy the lieutenant vehicle out of ARPA funds.
I think that's kind of what we talked about last meeting, Commissioner.
Yes.
We talked about those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did talk
Kind of
about
did a
it.
soft,
I will say the extended cab is not vital to us. I mean, the size of the cab, the bigger it is, we prefer a larger bed. And, something that's gonna be able to haul Andy's equipment.
he doesn't have anything that's 3/4 ton, everything's half ton, right?
Yes.
So
Correct.
you're not gonna get anything heavy duty from this kind of arrangement.
Right.
If you're thinking about purchasing something, how much do you have in your reserve account?
Well, my vehicle reserves, 6,000.
Yeah, so you're not even
No.
close to
Yeah,
being able to
no,
outright purchase something.
right, prior to ARPA,
Yeah,
we talked about using my building reserve funds for this. And then putting us on track for keeping reserves on an annual basis, adequate to make a future purchase when necessary.
so,
But then this other discussion came.
so one of the things we talked about last time was either doing this or buying one out of ARPA.
You mean, just buying something for him
Yeah,
flat out.
yeah, out of ARPA. Now, if that was done, then you could buy a straight cab, something that would,
Just, my problem is that we're gonna go and spend 40, 50 grand for a brand new pickup. And he's gonna put 2,500 miles a year. And, you know, 10 years from now, the thing is gonna have set here, less than 20,000 miles on it, and we got all this money tied up. I just,
well, I'm just stating what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
conversation
so that's
was.
why I really can't favor that buying outright. We're going to have to replace the 3 pickups the sheriff just talked about at some point in the next several months. And it's a great chance to repurpose that pickup rather than trading it in or something.
Sure.
And as far as hauling Andy's equipment, well, Andy should be
I
developed.
think it does.
He has a pickup and he has a vehicle. and he
It's
should-
always been his backup.
Yep.
Historically, is why, and he's actually the one that registers the truck.
Sheriff, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, any of the 3 trucks that we're talking about are in excellent shape. I mean, they're not,
Is the civil process body, is that longer because of the extend cab?
I think so.
yeah, I think the 6 inches different, I think.
6 inches
I'm not
longer.
100%
Is that-
sure.
Is that important?
It's preferred, important, who would say, I
Yeah,
prefer.
if you gotta
both.
put a
If
piece
it's
of plywood
regular Cab would be perfectly fine for us. That's not what's conventional these days, so.
Well, all right, so purchasing outright on one side of the spectrum.
And I
A crew cab on
That's
the other with
wasteful.
an extend cab in the middle based upon his need. So let's go middle of the road here and ask the sheriff to bid out a new civil process vehicle and transfer that if we could have. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, and we've got some, I mean, not something that needs to be done today, we've got some
We,
time,
well,
but we should be,
I think we could approve the sheriff to go out to bid today and come back with a bid to us sometime later. We could do that today. I mean, this,
First meeting in November.
we've been told publicly, what, you know, if there's a vehicle out there, we probably shouldn't be operating on the highway.
yeah.
So let's, you know, if Dave crashed in that thing next week, shame on us. So I'm just saying that we know now that we need to do something sooner than later.
So maybe at the next meeting, we could have, or Sheriff, you,
I was just gonna say, there's an item under commissioners down there that we could have this discussion a little further. I'd asked for an executive session for personnel issue, but that pickup may be available sooner than later.
You could. I'm not sure,
You know what
I'm not
about.
sure that discussion's all about, but I'm saying that authorizing you to go out to bid doesn't require you to. It just gives you the opportunity if that turns out to be the best plan. So I'd like to see the sheriff have the authority to go to bid and bring us back if that ends up being for the civil process.
So.
All right,
Is that a motion?
I've got to. I'm going to move to permit the sheriff to go out to bid, to seek bids to replace the civil process vehicle.
For the ultimate transfer,
But we'll decide that. when we get it.
okay. So that motion is stated,
Seconded.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion or comment?
Sounds good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, next up, plus approval to remove Deputy Lucas Keene from the county payroll. Sheriff,
Yes, he's been hired in by Harvard, so.
I'm going to move that we approve the removal of Deputy Lucas Keene from county payroll.
Seconded.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to move that we permit, that we approve for Deputy Rob Moran to travel out of state to New Hampshire for day of school, November 6th through the 17th.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, and I had a question on this, is this COVID? Because
No, we've
we've
always
always had,
always had, well, out of state travel requires.
that's okay.
And just to follow up on that, he's a mentor, which means he'll be training new officers, and we're fully reimbursed the costs from Deer America.
Okay, moved and seconded,
Well, having said that, that was the exception to the policy. If this doesn't come from tax money and you get reapproved, the National Sheriff's Association says, we'd like to invite you to come out and speak to us and we'll pay all your expenses. You don't need our authority for that.
Well, I just want to make sure. that-
Yeah, that's fine. We can go through. That is an exception to the policy.
okay, yeah, I just was,
Yep.
okay, moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous.
I'm going to move to approve and sign the forfeiture in the case of the state of Maine versus Jeffrey Allen in the amount of $1,105 for the funds to be deposited in G1 3013-50 forfeiture account. That account is the drug task force forfeiture account that we put all these forfeitures into tradition.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion, comments? All in favor? Aye.
Wait a minute. Just, let me see this. Okay, I gotta add my motion in for the chair to sign.
Oh,
My motion is added, John, for the chair to sign. Okay, second that, call it.
yeah, so, everybody's clear what they're voting on? All in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous. This is October.
Thank you.
Okay, jail. Discussion regarding the medical contract.
We've been advised in the past that recently, that our contract should be more in depth. With everything going on, we have not reached that point. Like, I was in conversations for a while, trying to get time frame and stuff to make it work. At this time, we don't have a medical contract. She has agreed to go month to month, as is under the same contract. My question is, should we have her sign a contract, which she's available, she'll be in the facility today, a basic contract, so we have something that we can, until we get one formalized to move forward in the future, so we have something ready.
Was that your recommendation?
My recommendation is have her, let's sign a 6-month contract until we have the new one up to date, so we can move forward and make sure we have everything that she assigned with us.
Michael, you discuss this with Tim?
Yeah, I mean, Tim and I have talked
You
about
talked
it.
about, you're all set with that?
Yeah, I mean, we need to have something in place, but I guess the only question I would ask is if that contractor might be agreeable if we were able to come up with something sooner to sign something
She
that
is 100%.
extend,
Well,
kind of
whatever.
yeah, okay.
In other words, a sign a more permanent contract.
Yeah, more permanent thing.
Yeah, so this, in other words, the question is, if this is a 6-month contract and we come up with something sooner, can we rescind that contract? I would assume that all parties would be in favor.
We can add that in pending future contract.
So I'm gonna move to approve Chelsea Howard as a sole source provider for medical services at the jail and to authorize the staff to work on drafting a contract with Chelsea Howard as soon as possible in order to bring that contract back to the commission for commissioner's review and approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. That seems like that does what you need, Tim, and that's your recommendation. Michael, you're all right?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly puts us in a better position than we are right now, so.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 So unanimous. Thank you, Tim. And then it sounds like we have the same issue with mental health.
Currently, we have a contract with AMHC. They can no longer provide what we need for the in-person psychiatrist side of things. We've talked to Sarah Willie that covers for Chelsea, and Chelsea on PH, she has a great work relationship with us. She's willing to come on board. It's a little, it's not a large contract. I think we say within the budgets with it. But it's something that puts somebody in-house. We have a lot more contact. It's gonna really enhance our mental health needs.
Sarah recommended Sarah Willie for that.
Yeah. And we're gonna
Michael,
terminate.
you all set with that?
Yeah, based on
And
this
that's-
recommendation,
that's
I
not-
don't know.
And I've talked to MHC and they understand that they're gonna have to, they're willing to step aside and void in their contract without the 90-day clause. once we get things set.
I'm gonna move to accept the proposal from Sarah Willie to provide mental health services in the jail and to authorize the staff to work on drafting the contract with Sarah Willie as soon as possible in order to bring that contract back to the commission for the commission's review and approval. Seconded.
Moved and seconded, Tim.
The first, the next meeting on the agenda.
Okay, Michael. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
We'd like to know when it happens.
Yeah, we'll let, hopefully next meeting, they'll sign it and it'll go active that day, so.
When AMHC is
It's
done.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, HR monthly report.
I'm gonna move to accept and file the HR report as presented. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Anything to add or? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Thank you. Treasurer
I'm gonna
approval.
move to approve the monthly bills and warrants as presented. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Anything to add or? Marcia, Michael? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Commissioners, Galen Williamson, from Northeast Workforce Development Board, WIOA and EMDC updates. Thank you. We've read your report.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Galen Williamson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Northeastern Workforce Development Board. With me this morning too is Kelly Cochran, who's the Outreach Coordinator for EMDC. And in the back there, Loretta Kelly, who's Director of one of our quest grants. So this is really just an opportunity to introduce myself and give you a brief update about what's happened with our Title I-B services and how things are going. And if you want to know specifics about what's happening in Hancock County in terms of numbers, enrollments, and outreach and such, if the commissioners wish, we could ask EMDC, they're prepared to give you some of those,
Yeah, it was covered very well in your
Yeah.
report. so.
Yeah, okay, that's good, okay. Just real quickly, we're still waiting to hear back from the Washington around whether our WIOA statute, the act will be updated or not, whether it'll be reauthorized. So we don't have word about that at all. So we're still waiting on that. In terms of local board activity, this last quarterly board meeting, we met here in Hancock County. One of our goals is to try to, we cover all the upper 5 counties. And so one of our goals is to try to have our quarterly board meetings and rotate them around in each one of the counties that we have and invite participants who've been a part of our program and our success story, along with folks who are also hosting these sites, and talk about the success that that individual had while in a work experience or on the job training. And it went really well. We had really nice representation here from Hancock County, and as well a lot of folks from the other parts of the Northeast. We are still seeking one board member down here in Hancock County. We do have one representative, Terry Swanson, who represents the hospitality side of the house. But if commissioners can think of a business person that would be a great representative for the county for our board, we appreciate any sorts of nominations. We are currently going through all kinds of federal requirements around our monitoring of the program. So 2021, the feds seem to be a little bit behind 2021. All in all, the monitoring of our board was successful, as well as monitoring of EMDC. We're currently underway for 2022, and this afternoon we'll have our final monitoring interview and reviews. So then we'll provide the report. I would really like to be able to, if it's possible, to get on the commissioners meeting at a time that is convenient for everybody. We could do quarterly, we could do every 6 months, something that really works for the commissioners. I know you guys have a busy agenda here, but we'd like to be able to keep you updated on all of the happenings. In terms of the WIOA Title 1B contract, that has been renewed, and that particular contract serves our adult dislocated worker and youth programs. We also have running out the opioid disaster relief grant that will come to an end December 31st. However, we're really happy that we were awarded, the state was awarded, along with the other 3 boards, the other 2 boards, Quest grant, which is also a disaster relief grant. And it is a similar grant in nature in terms of marginalized populations we're trying to reach, but the referral process, so participants who are interested in getting involved with our workforce programs, the enrollment process is easier in terms of all the paperwork and requirements that are typically can be a barrier under the WIOA programs. The Quest grant is also designed to serve the marginalized population, and with that, we've down here in Hancock County, there's been a lot of great establishments and relationships made with recovery community. We're currently doing EMDCs doing outreach into the Hancock County Jail and trying to provide opportunities for folks who are prepping for release. So those are just some of the highlights of what's happening on the board. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to.
2 things. First of all, the first one, as far as your, we'll say every 6 months reporting whatnot, Cindy worked with Michael.
Yeah.
We have 2 meetings a month. Our first meeting is a very busy meeting, this one. And then on the second one, we usually try to do things like that, listen to reports and spend time on that. When we have more time and less technical business. So that would be, that's something to work out with Michael and chair, put that agenda together. And the other thing, Paul, if I might, between you or Kelly, could you just give us a brief overview of what board member would be expected, what we expected of him as far as time and exactly what their role would be?
Yeah, the actual board member for the Northeastern Workforce Development Board, they play a really integral role in terms of being involved with our budget decision-making process. So each year, the board is required to review those budgets, ensure that those budgets meet all of our administrative and programmatic responsibilities. So reviewing that documentation, voted on those reports. When it's time to do that, there's trainings that we try to go through with new board members so they understand really the board's decision-making process. Anytime, just recently at our last board meeting, we made some policy changes. So the policy committee will obviously do all the work on that, but then it's really up to the board members to review those reports and ensure that it reflects what we're trying to achieve in the Northeast. And again, the voting member. We also really ask that board members promote the program within their own county. So that, as if they have those connections within the county through the business community, that if folks have employment needs, or there are barriers that they're encountering, that that they'll bring them to the board, and we'll try to resolve. There's also the local area plan, and that is really something that's coming up, but I've not experienced it as a new director, but every 4 years, we're required by the State Workforce Board and USDOL to update our local area plan. And that requires a considerable amount of work and participation, involvement, and input into how we adjust our strategic, how we adjust our strategies toward engaging the workforce in talent strategies for building up our workforce for the future.
So how often do you meet?
We meet quarterly.
In Bangor, the office in Bangor?
We typically do hybrid or in person. So we, due to COVID, it was last year, we kind of did the whole, Zoom thing, everyone was remote. But our last 2 quarterly board meetings, we've offered both options, in person, or wherever you're at in the county, and hybrid.
At the discretion of the board member.
At the discretion of the board. Yep.
So ideally it would be a business leader.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we think of folks, we should forward those to you.
Yes, forward those to me and we'll vet them. We just recently brought on a new board member in Piscataquis County. And the way we did it was, a community member came forward, a county official knew the board member, knew the business owner, and knew that they could vouch for that business owner's reputation. I went up and visited the business, went up and visited the individual, and after all of that, made a nomination to have the nominee elected as a board member. And then our other commissioners are our CEOs for.
But you wouldn't expect us to endorse or embrace an applicant for this.
No, you vet that.
We will vet.
Vet the individual.
Right, it's a nomination by you.
Yeah.
It's a nomination by the county commission. So it'd be great, appreciate if you give it consideration, and that'd be great.
Great.
Anything, would you like to hear some local program updates from the MDC? Or wait for the next time?
Well, you've covered a lot of it in your.
Happy to expand if there are any questions, and also.
I think we may have a question or comment from the jail administrator.
Back before COVID, the county was vested in this workforce development in the jail. Loretta was kind of ahead of it. We had it in the jail. It's nice to see him come back into the facility, but it's something we had in the jail and it's hit the ground running. Population is engaged, so I think it's going to be a positive thing running into the jails.
Great, thank you.
We don't want to seem disinterested, Kelly.
Don't worry,
No,
we'll be
your
back.
report was amazing.
Forward to every 6 months. Seeing you. It's good to see you
Thank you.
again.
Good to see you.
Any other questions? No, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Okay, next up is the health insurance buyout buy down policy amendment. Michael?
So there was ad hoc committee that's kind of put together to discuss the personnel policy, in particular the retiree health benefits, which has come up at a couple meetings here. And during our discussions of where we felt how we could clarify that issue and maybe enhance it and make it better to fit going forward, one of the items that came up for discussion was the fact that on one side, we kind of have this policy that indicates that you are able to participate and have essentially do buy downs and buyouts, but then just before you retire, you could switch over to our over to our healthcare and then retire and get, your benefits that way as well. So essentially what you were given was an update, just modifying a little bit of the language and adding some more to indicate that an employee would have to be part of the actual health or be a participant, part of the program, participate in that program for the county at least 12 consecutive months prior. So they'd have to at least have been involved in the retirement, not in the retirement, but in the regular health plan at least a year up to that time period. And then at that time, they'd be eligible just like anybody else. But otherwise, we still kept that provision in there that if they're participating in the county health insurance buyout plan at the time of retirement, they're not eligible for a retirement health insurance buyout beyond that period.
I'd say my opinion is that providing health insurance for employees and whatnot is a benefit that most of them need, quite honestly. But if you're an employee who was fortunate enough to have a spouse who has fortunate to have a good enough job that her employer, their employer provides a family insurance plan, then they don't need that benefit. And on top of that, they're getting a windfall from us because we're actually buying it out so that the employee's getting their insurance from their spouse, and they're also getting a check from us. Now, this could go on for several years. And then just before he retires and whatnot, he said, oh, by the way, I want you to give me that benefit for lifetime. And it just seems like, and unless they both retire at the same time, the employee's going to retire, spouse is still going to be working, the family health benefit is still available to them and whatnot. And so I just think that if you're fortunate enough not to need our insurance, while you're working here, then we shouldn't consider giving it to the employee when they retire. So that's
And that's the only change, is that change on page 2, item.
Item 4.
Item 4, yeah, the retiree benefit part.
Yeah.
Really the last couple of sentences, but the last paragraph is the bulk of the change.
So I'm going to move to amend the county's retiree health insurance benefit policy to make anyone who is retiring and had an insurance buyout for any of the preceding 12 months ineligible for lifetime health insurance through the county.
And to adopt the language as presented. Right, is what you're looking for.
They will.
Okay. Moved and seconded, everybody's clear what we're voting on? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, for unanimous.
And Patrice has a copy of that for you to sign at your meeting.
Okay. Okay. Appointment of a county representative of the Hancock County Planning Commission.
This is going to come to nobody's surprise, but I've said it several times before. I'm opposed to having a member of the commission on any board or commission who comes back to us at a later date and whatnot requesting funds from us. I think first of all, I think it's unfair to that commissioner and whatnot to have to set the end objectively decide if and how much and still be considered a supporting member of that organization. And as we know, the Hancock County Planning Commission has traditionally been receiving funds and third-party recipients, and there's no reason to believe they won't be applying for some of that under our CBA grants this fall, this winter. So I really am having a problem having one of the three of us serve.
I'm just looking for recommendations from us.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think they're just asking for recommendations.
If that's all it is,
I don't think they're asking for us.
That's how I read it, but
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, so you don't think they're asking for one?
So they're not saying one of the three of you, but they do need, as I understand it, you're responsible for appointing as a commission two people to serve on that board. So, or on the planning commission, so.
We have to approve appointment to Hancock.
Well,
We
we
have
have
to
kind of
make-
same type of, just like what was discussed, you kind of nominate somebody for their approval.
Under their bylaws, under their,
So, yeah. And I mean, that's also outlined, I believe, in state statute as well. I think.
it is,
I believe so, yeah.
because that makes a big difference if it's,
again, it's one of those, we don't have any volunteers being down our doors, but, you know, it's something to keep in mind.
I don't know if there's anybody online that wanted to speak, but they had talked about maybe somebody being able to chime from the planning commission to come in and comment on it, but I know that James was unavailable, so he had another meeting to get out of, but, so if there isn't anybody online, then, you know, basically, I don't have any recommendations for you right now either, it's just whether or not, one, to make you aware of the vacancy, and then two, if not, then to, you know, keep your eyes open and kind of recruit, just like they tried to do the workforce development as well.
Great, thank you.
so no action taken.
No, I don't think there's any action to. Okay, and then Eastern Maine Development Corporation's request for a letter of support for a proposal to the EDA recompete pilot program entitled Eastern Maine Clean Energy Cluster. Michael, could you touch on that, or somebody touch on that? Sort of.
So essentially, I was sent an email by Vicky Blitzbolt, the Director of Administration Compliance Development. They are applying for the grant that you just mentioned, which is entitled the Eastern Maine Clean Energy Cluster. And that, they kind of gave you this nice little color handout that shows circles on it, what the cluster is. But basically, what the overall goal of what they're proposing is to embrace and promote clean energy in Maine. And then they have, you know, a bunch of different strategies they talk about. There's strategic partnerships, the industry, growth of industry and business, job creation and training. And then they mentioned the clean energy pilot projects such as biofine, biomass, sea export offshore wind, mooring development, green energy initiative, and Maine's working waterfront. Overall, the idea is to reduce reliance on fossil fuels, carbon emissions, increase energy options, connect science to consumer, increase livable wage jobs, and also the BDO, Bioeconomic Development Opportunity Zone designation that they push as well. As past practice, obviously, I don't just go ahead and sign these on behalf of the commission without knowing what the commission would like to do, but they do need to have to submit this by Thursday, as I understand it. And they really, original deadline was to ask that if we were gonna send something, that we do it by the end of today.
My only problem with this is, you know, I'm not really sure. You know, I don't know enough about some of these projects. They could be controversial, or they could not be, who knows? And that's my hesitancy in, you know, this type of thing. I don't know how everybody, I mean, it could be innocuous, I just don't know that.
I had the same problem. In fact, I tried to get more information about this online. I couldn't find anything about this cluster, but I had the same concerns that Paul does. And, you know, when I look down through this, they talk about the clean energy projects. One of them is solar energy. And, I mean, on the face of it, say, gee, who wouldn't support that? Well, I can tell you that lobster fishermen don't support solar wind farms being placed on the ocean.
Oh, wind farm.
Wind farm or solar farms. They're developing solar farms now for ocean. Finland's already got them, and they're promoting that now. So I just, you know, I wouldn't want to agree to sign this today and then have Billy Bob Buckingham show up next week upset that we're hurting his, area of fishing or something. I don't know. I just don't.
So certainly in terms of a process thing, I mean, I'll put my 2 cents in, it's not about this specifically, because that's not my role in place, but procedural wise, it might make sense at some point for us to come back and commission kind of develop some type of procedure that says, if you want us to support these types of letters or recommendations for grants, then you need to provide that to us a month in advance or 2 weeks in advance, and you need to come and provide a presentation. Because essentially what's been happening the last couple of times I've had to do these is they come in at the last hour, I need this today or next week. You know nothing about it. I mean, I only know just about as much as you do based on the literature that's in front of you. So to be fair to the commission, I think that's reasonable to develop some type of policy that says, you know what, if you want us to sign on to these, then we need to know what we're signing on to. So you need to come before us and present it, and then, we go from there.
And without I wholeheartedly agree. Without a policy like that, we're sticking our administrator in a spot that, is uncomfortable because, he could potentially be putting the commission in an uncomfortable place, so.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a personal policy, and that is that we don't involve ourselves in anything that we're not responsible to or have authority over. There is, it doesn't seem like whatever the issue is, there's a number of people on the opposite side of the issue. And for us to take a position is, that somebody's going to be.
Yeah, it's county government.
Yeah, well, but somebody's gonna be upset, and if we have no responsibility to that issue, no authority to regulate it, or whatever, I say stay away from it. That's always been my policy.
So it doesn't sound like,
Of course, we had Eastern Maine Development Corp. 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So, did they know this was
Yeah.
on the agenda? Did they know this was on the agenda?
Well, I mean, I can't say how close Vicky spoke with them about it, but I didn't discuss it with them because it's the left and right of the organization, so.
yeah,
Even in Vicky's case, I mean, again, it's a last minute thing, so I had to tell her last week. But
I think, Paul, I think your comment is well taken. I think even without a policy, I think we could instruct and suggest to Michael, if you get these, Michael, then we need a month. It needs to come to us,
we need to know what we're signing on.
we want to know more about it. We may want to publish the fact that we're going to address this 2 weeks earlier so that somebody could attend the opposition. So,
And we're not stating a position at all.
we have by supporting the letter.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't right for action, but Michael, your suggestion of a policy is probably a good one to bring forward.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
So no action at this time.
yeah, no action. God, this thing keeps going off.
Yeah, irritate you.
Okay. Next up is executive session under
I'm going to
MRSA.
move to an executive session in the MRSA 1, section 405, subsection 6A, for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter.
Moved and seconded. We'll go. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So unanimous, so we'll take a short break to wind down. We'll have an executive session.
So did you end the meeting?